And we are live. Welcome back. Welcome if you are new. Going to talk about some climate change stuff. I'm kind of doing a news program right now. Doomer headlines, right? Climate doom headlines. I don't generally do too much of that. There are lots of people that do. That read scientific articles and say, here's the scientific article, here's the charts. Wow, isn't this amazing? Some people that talk about, oh, here's all the flooding, here's all the hail, the hurricanes, whatever, they talk about that. There's a certain amount of, spectacle involved in these things. People sometimes watch cute cat videos, and then other times they want to watch other people suffering because of the weather. What is it? Amps us up. We get all excited and terrified all at the same time. It's why we watch horror movies, right? We go to the theater, watch 2 hours of a horror movie. We come out, we're all amped up. Same thing with the weather. And, let's face it, the weather is becoming a horror show, right? So, I watch the live streams where they're doing storm tracking in the Midwest and, Southeast. Severe weather, tornadoes. I'm watching these things because I'm interested in what's happening, how the Earth dynamic system is manifesting itself in these aberrant ways, these strange, off the map type of behaviors that we're beginning to see. I'm studying these. I'm keeping track of them. I'm collecting data, essentially. Other people are watching them because it's a horror show, right? So, a couple things today, and I'll try to bring all this back around to my normal themes, which are, I have a couple of threads now I'm chasing on this channel. Global heating, right? As things get hot, the heat is going to have increasing and more novel, more interesting manifestations in our weather. I'm also tracking how global civilization is responding to these things, either not responding at all, which is business as usual, or being beat up, right? Just being decimated. And also what all this tells us about our possible futures as we continue to do nothing, as we continue to watch this horror show play out. And then, of course, one of these days, the chickens come home to roost for all of us. Each of us will have to deal with this eventually. We're all thinking that it's not going to come to us, and we're all wrong. That's just how it is. So today, two things. One of them is the NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the NOAA predictions for the coming hurricane season, which are pretty harrowing. And also something that doesn't make the news very much, but I've been following this for about a year, just kind of watching headlines and once in a while taking in a story about how Mexico City is basically has run out of water. Mexico City has run out of water as a city. And also, more recently, Bogota, Colombia has run out of water, the entire city. Not a neighborhood, not poor people, the city of Bogota, the city of Mexico City. So let's start with the NOAA thing first. Yes, indeed, the hurricane season is coming. And lo and behold, they're predicting worse than almost anything. I guess their only concession is that 2010 was a very bad season. I don't know what their prediction was for 2010, but they're saying that 2010, now that it's in the rearview mirror, was a very bad season for hurricanes. And they're predicting their prediction, which is different. Their prediction for the current season is that it will be almost as bad as that. That's their prediction. Now, of course, we won't know until after the season is done how bad it really got. But, they're saying it'll be on a par with 2010. The key here is that 2010 wasn't that long ago. The worst hurricane season, on record in the modern record period where we have modern records wasn't, in 1992. It wasn't 1953, right? It was just a short time ago, 2010. And that really is the theme of all these things. The planet is getting hotter. It's getting hotter. And as I've discussed in earlier videos in this series, um, a big part of that heat is ending up in the oceans. Uh, there's a certain amount that's also in the atmosphere and on the land as well. And so there's heat accumulating everywhere. But in terms of the hurricane season, we are in particular interested of the heat content of the ocean. The heat content of the ocean is really high, uh, off the charts. Literally, as they draw a line every year for what the heat content is, and this year the heat content is up here, right? They're having to make the charts bigger to accommodate it. Not good. And since, yeah, some of us know what that means in terms of hurricanes, we know what that means for the hurricane season. We can guess, right? And so NOAA and the Colorado State University came out with their predictions. They're getting out ahead of the season so that planners and responders can start making noise about what can you really do, right? How can you prepare for the hurricane season? Are you seriously going to board up your windows now? Of course not. Are you really going to hire more first responders, build another hospital? Are you going to fix all of your flood control structures in the next, I don't know, couple of weeks? No, of course you're not going to do those things. So I don't know what the point is of having these predictions. Um, in fact, it's easy for someone like myself, given my predilection for system dynamics. I could even be critical of these annual NOAA, you know, hurricane season predictions. I could actually be critical of that. And as I was watching the press release this morning, and they were talking about the hurricane season, and they're really talking about how much money they spend on preparation, how great their teams are, and all the planes flying bravely into the storms to measure the eye and all this other. And I'm like, guys, it's like they're just ignoring the elephant in the room. And maybe it's because they're mostly meteorologists. That could be part of it. I believe that meteorologists, the weathermen, the weather women, they've completely dropped the ball on this. Just utterly dropped the ball, kicked it into the next room, walked the other direction. They're having no interaction with the ball. Okay. They've dropped the ball. And the ball is that it isn't just what's happening this week or next month or the predictions for 2 weeks from now or the daily weather and how we're going to chop up this data and carve up this data and all these severe weather and the hail is going to be this big and the lightning bolts are going to be this long and whatever, right? You get lost in the weeds on this kind of shit if you want to. I mean, if you want to get lost in the weeds, there's lots of weeds to get lost in. How big is the hail? How big is the lightning? How are the winds, right? There's an elephant in the room. Everybody's walking around it, pretending not to notice the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is global heating. Global heating. The whole planet's heating up. Thank you. Yes, that's what's happening. We're heating the planet. And so, therefore, ipso facto, we're just going to have more of this extreme bullshit going on. And they don't want to talk about it. So why is the hurricane season a record? Well, go look at the sea surface temperatures out there in the South Atlantic and the Caribbean. Just go have a look. And, if you want to see a manifestation of that's happening in real time, like right now, like this afternoon, okay, the heat that has accumulated in the Gulf of Mexico is right now, as I speak, okay, evaporating water out of the Gulf of Mexico, moving it inland on the the regular winds that blow off the Gulf into the lower 48 U.S. states, and that energy, that hot, moist water, which contains huge quantities of energy. Now, that's how you evaporate water. You heat it up. What do we call heat? Energy. Okay. You heat water on your stovetop, you're going to get an energy bill. You're going to get an electric bill or you're going to get a natural gas bill for heating that water up. Why? Where'd the energy go? Why do I have to burn natural gas to heat the water? Because you need the energy to heat the water. And when you're done heating the water, the energy is now stored in the water. Why do I have to have an electric bill to heat water in my water tank? Because you want the energy in the water so that the water is hot. All right. I mean, people don't understand this. I have to say these things because people don't understand it. You're buying energy to heat water. Well, it's the same thing in the Gulf of Mexico, folks. The global heating is heating the atmosphere. It's heating the water. The sun is coming in. It's trapping the heat. The water evaporates. It gets hotter. It evaporates. And the energy of evaporation is now contained in the atmosphere. You didn't know that. Nobody knows that. Even meteorologists don't seem to know that. They never talk about it. There's energy in that moist, hot air mass. There's energy in there. And that energy, when it comes ashore and the conditions are right and you get thunderclouds, it can fuck you up. You can get violent out there. All that energy can be violent. The energy contained in the natural gas flame on your stovetop, if not carefully managed, that energy that's being released in that flame on your stovetop can set you on fucking fire. Can set your house on fire. People have problems with natural gas explosions in their houses and places of business all the time, practically every day. There's energy in that stuff. And when it accumulates on the earth, that energy goes into the atmosphere, and it's in the atmosphere. It's energy in the atmosphere, and it can do work. And the work it can do is it can spin up air masses and create god awful tornadoes and even outbreaks of tornadoes, one after the other, like this. And when it's out in the South Atlantic and the energy's in the water and it evaporates and creates a moist, hot air mass, then the energy there can create a hurricane. And it gets the air doing this. And how do you do that? That's energy. And of course, it's coming from the sun, but we are enhancing the greenhouse effect. That's what we do. How do we do that? Because we burn fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas. And when you burn them, the waste products, which are mostly water and CO2, goes into the atmosphere because that's what we do. Comes out of the tailpipe of your car, comes out of the smokestack of a power plant. It comes out of industrial processes, and they just vent it into the atmosphere because it's CO2 and water. And water is perfectly harmless. Why not? The CO2 is also harmless, except for the greenhouse effect. So we've been dumping this stuff into the atmosphere, thinking nothing of it, la, la, la. Meanwhile, 200 years ago, people who understand Earth system dynamics, or a little bit back then, we didn't understand much, but they knew that there was such a thing, and they knew there was an atmosphere, and they knew it had components, and they knew it collects heat, that the planet is already hotter than it probably would be without some CO2 in the atmosphere, and that we're adding to the atmosphere because of what we're doing with fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas, and we've been doing it for hundreds of years, and if we keep doing it, there's going to be more CO2, and that's going to enhance the greenhouse effect, and that's going to warm the planet, and then we're going to be fucked, okay? 150 years ago, they were saying that. You can do the experiments in a high school chemistry classroom, physics classroom. You can do the experiments yourself. So yes, the oceans are heating up. Bad news for the hurricane season, because that energy stored in the surface of the sea will interact with the atmosphere right above the surface of the sea and create these enormous cyclones that we call hurricanes, or some places we call them typhoons, or some places we just call them cyclones. And the cyclone season, the hurricane season, is predicted to be almost a record breaker. And who knows? Looking in hindsight later, maybe it will be a record breaker. I guess we'll find out. Because of the temperatures of the sea. Now, the temperatures of the sea can only go up. That's what global heating does. Global heating never cools. I mean, there's going to be fluctuations, but the fluctuations are up like this. It goes up, down, up, down, up, down. But the trend is up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, more up and down. Okay, that's what's called a trend. A trend line that goes from here to there and up, down, up, down, up, down the whole time. A little bit down, a little bit up, but more up than down because the trend is up. Okay, that's how that happens. So now we have global heating going on. We have all the CO2 in the atmosphere. It's not going anywhere. And we're going to heat the planet because that's what it does. And we can't not heat the planet because physics, and we can't cool the planet because physics. So that's just how it is. La-di-da. Welcome to the real world. That's what we've done. Oh, and we're still doing it. We're not stopping doing it. No one's talking, discussing, contemplating, imagining not burning fossil fuels. We're going to burn the coal. We're going to burn the oil. We're going to burn the natural gas. We're going to find even more ways to burn it, more creative ways to burn it. And we're going to make more money burning it. And more people are going to get rich. And more products are going to hit the shelves. And all this stuff is going to happen. We're going to have more wars, more calamities, more refugees. It's all going to require more fossil fuels. We need fossil fuels for tanks. We need fossil fuels for missiles. We need fossil fuels to clean up the wreckage from the tanks and the missiles. And then we need fossil fuels to rebuild from the tanks and the missiles. And then the tanks and the missiles come back. We start the whole thing all over again. It's all fossil fuels. It's all diesel. It's all lubricants. It's all everything. Fossil fuels, burning it, setting it on fire, getting the energy out. using the energy to drive our tanks into people's villages and knock down the villages, and then use the diesel to bring in tractors to clean up the mess, and use diesel to bring in cranes and forklifts and rebuild the buildings. And then we go use more diesel to bring the tanks back and blow it all up again. You see the problem here? Yeah, there's a problem here. The problem is there's no way out. And you're not going to get out. You're not getting out of this. You're just not getting out of this. There's no way out. There's no way out. Now I say, okay, well, the way out is to stop burning fossil fuels. Leave them in the ground. Leave them in the ground. Okay? Simple as that. That's as simple as that. No innovation, no new technology, no miracles. Jesus doesn't have to descend from heaven. Nothing. We don't need anything. It's I can sum it up in one breath. Leave it in the ground. There you go. 5 little words. Simple. Will we do that? Fuck no. No, we're not doing that. No, we are not doing that. We're gonna do a lot of other things before we do that. And one of the things we're going to be doing before we do that, one of the things we're going to be doing a lot of is making predictions for record hurricane seasons. We'll be doing a lot of that. This year, it's this year, but next year it'll be possibly worse than the year after that. But the trend, of course, is every year it gets worse. Every year the hurricane season gets worse. And, we'll have whatever, 6 major hurricanes that come ashore in the US. But, 3 years from now, we'll have 8. And a few years after that, we'll have 12. And people will say, well, yeah, we had a lot last time too. Yeah, but you're missing the point here. You're missing the point that the trend is you're getting more all the time. And the next time that we have a major hurricane outbreak prediction, they'll say, oh, this prediction is worse than 2024. And we'll forget that the 2024 season was being compared to 2010. And then the 2028 season will be worse than the 2026 season, right? Oh, we have a record-setting prediction this year for the hurricane season, and it's like every year it's just worse than the year before because the trend is up. It's like your child that's growing up. Your child is growing up. Up being the operant term. Your child is growing up, and every year the child is a little taller than the year before, and then and here's last year. Now your child is taller, and now a year later you compare the height of your child to the year before. That's how it works. That's how growth works. We expect children to grow, and we don't expect them to shrink. It's kind of baked into the cake of childhood development, right? We expect each year for the child to get taller, older, right? Well, older is just time, right? But we expect them to get taller and more mature. That's what we expect our children to do. Well, now welcome to global heating. Every year is just going to be hotter than the years before. Some years will be a lot hotter than the years before. Some will be slightly hotter than the years before. There will be some variation in how much it goes up, and maybe even some years the heat will drop. But the trend is going to be line go up. All right, line go up. So they've made a record prediction for the hurricane season. No mention of why that is, and certainly, absolutely, no discussion at all of the elephant in the room, which is that, and it's going to be worse next year, and it's going to be worse than that the year after, and every year there's the potential that it's just going to ratchet up. Every year is going to be worse potentially than the year before, and it never ratchets the other way. It never does that because it can't, because of physics. Every year we add more CO2 to the atmosphere. Every year there's more of it up there. It never goes away. It doesn't go away. It accumulates. It goes away over geologic time, like millions of years. It goes away. And so, the entire human history is only 20,000 years of recorded history. Humans have only been on this earth at all for about 1/3 of a million years. And yet the changes we're making are going to last millions of years. And it just goes up. And we have to leave the fossil fuels in the ground. I know that's painful. I know that's embarrassing. I know that's humiliating. It's going to be the end of everything. But hopefully it's also the end of the constant ratcheting up every year of the greenhouse effect. Hopefully, I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's too late even for that. Maybe we can't even expect to influence the system anymore. It could be we've just fucked it up so much that now it's just out, out of hand, completely out of hand. It could be. Well, then we should just keep burning fossil fuels. Oh, well, you know what? You're going to do that anyway. There's no argument I can make to make people stop burning fossil fuels. There's no argument I can make to make the nations and industries of the world stop burning fossil fuels. It's very simple what you have to do. Leave it in the ground, but you're not going to do that. No one's going to do that. I can say it. Yeah, I'm an engineer. I know exactly what it takes. Just leave it in the ground. Never going to happen. Oh, well, it will be left in the ground. I mean, think of it this way. If we have a bad enough hurricane season, then all the oil facilities are blown to rat shit. They have to shut down the oil platforms every time a hurricane comes through, and they stay shut down for weeks. What if there's just one hurricane after another? What if every 2 weeks there's another hurricane come through and it blows everything to pieces, and the men have to go back to shore, and they come back and the platform is you know half torn up, and on the shoreline, the oil refineries, and the storage facilities are all broken to pieces, and the big tanks are broken, and the oil flows out onto the ground and out to sea, and got this huge mess to clean up, and everything is damaged, and the people who work in the oil fields, that their homes are damaged. They're not going to go to work while their home has been blown to pieces by a hurricane, and their home has been flooded for 2 weeks by a hurricane storm surge. And they're not going to be working in the oil fields. They're going to be working at home. They're going to be trying to get money to rebuild their home. They're going to be talking to the governor and the mayor and the FEMA, and they're going to be living in a fucking tent city for a month and a half. No, they're not going to be working in the oil fields. They're not going to be repairing the platforms and the refineries. They're not going to be doing that. What are you talking about? So at some point, if that gets bad enough and continues to get bad enough, and of course it's getting hot, and the food supplies are becoming thin, and the supply chains are being disrupted, and the machine supplies and the food supplies and the medicine supplies and everything is all screwed up, then I guess it ends, right? If you can't keep the gears turning over of modern industrialized civilization, then people just have to kind of do whatever they have to do, right? They're living in a tent city, and there's very little food, and all they can think about is food and medication, and their kids are sick, and there's typhoid, and there's cholera, and the water is impure, and it just goes on and on and on. Just one disaster after another. They're having major disasters right now in the Midwest, literally one after the other, 3 days apart. These severe storms come through, and it's just a disaster. Like I say, I follow these things, and the people who are live streaming these storm systems coming through, they're just gobsmacked. And they've been doing this for years, doing live streams, and they talk about the tornadoes, and it's so exciting. And here's a picture of a tornado, and here's a live stream of a funnel cloud, and and then of course there's the aftermath, the disaster, and then they kind of sober up. Oh yeah, right. There's that too. Sometimes these tornadoes go right down the middle of a city. Okay, well, those people are done. They're done, right? They're done. And if there's several cities in a row get wiped out, and there's all these cities that have been wiped out, and there's all these tent cities that have to get set up for people to live in, and mobile homes and whatnot, well, pretty soon you run out of tents, right? Pretty soon you run out of temporary housing. And then you start to run out of temporary supplies. And, FEMA is supposed to manage all this, but, what's their funding level? How much do they have stored up? How much do they have in reserve? Something. But are they going to be able to cope with all the disasters happening at once? No, they won't. They won't. And so people's lives become more and more threadbare. People's lives become more and more marginal. And you really seriously expect them to go and put up the power lines again when they're living in a tent city themselves? You expect them to go out and work in the oil fields, fix the pipes, and scoop up the oil, and and weld all the things back together again when they're living in a tent city, and their kids have got cholera, and no one's eaten for 24 hours? You think they're going to be out there working on your infrastructure to getting all that set back up again? Yeah, well, maybe some of them might be. Most of them won't. They're just not going to be able to. And at some point, you're just going to have to leave it in the ground. Now, you could have done that deliberately. You could have said, okay, this is a shit show. We're not going to get out of this alive. So if we want to, to have any kind of future at all, we should start preparing for, you know, things to really get spun out of control because global heating, because the heat never goes away and the CO2 never goes away except over geological time periods. And we can't cope with this. We just can't cope. Every hurricane season is worse than the hurricane season before, and every tornado outbreak is worse than the tornado outbreak last week. And it just never gets better. And it always gets worse. And something's always burning. And something's always flooding. Someone's always trying to get someplace else so they can survive. And you're heading north in one situation, trying to find a place to live and to sleep and to eat. Meanwhile, you're passing people headed south, trying to find the same thing. And that's when you say, wait, I'm going to your community to try and find survival, what I need, food, clothing, and shelter. And you're coming to my community? I just got wiped out. Where are you from? I'm not going there. I'm going someplace else. And so then they head west and they head east. And they're hoping that something is going to materialize for them. And you think those people are going to be working on the infrastructure and putting the power lines back up and fixing the oil wells and fixing the refineries and getting in the trucks and delivering the gasoline and getting in the trucks and delivering the food? You think they're going to be doing that? No, they're not going to be doing that. They just won't do that. They can't, and they won't. So every year that we don't do the necessary, it just gets worse. And I get a little bit frustrated with the NOAA people. I mean, they're scientists, whatnot, but they're mostly meteorologists. And I'm telling you, the meteorologists are fucking around. They're part of the news. They're part of the news. The news is, I got my 45 seconds to tell you the news. And I don't have any seconds other than to tell you what's happening with the weather, to tell you why it's happening. And they don't. They just don't. And even when they have the time, even when they're on a YouTube stream and they got all the time they want, right? It's their stream. They don't. They don't talk about it. And it's news, and it's a tornado, and it's exciting. And look at all these photographs, and look at all the wreckage, and look at the cars turned upside down, and that car's up in a tree, and look at the horse standing on the roof during the flood. And it's all exciting, and it's all adrenaline, and it's all horror. It's like going to the horror movie, and you come out, and your adrenaline is beating, and your heart is pounding, and you're like, oh wow, that was exciting. Give me some more excitement. Monkey, 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 right? Show me the shiny thing. Show me the excitement. And it's all handled like it's a fictional movie, a horror show. And there's no context. There should be, because this is a real-time horror show. This is a real-time disaster. Not something made up by Hollywood, something that's really happening. And they won't talk about it. They'll predict a record hurricane season, and they'll mention the role of El Nino and La Nina, and they'll mention the sea surface temperatures, and they'll just walk around that elephant in the room. Just walk around that elephant, man. There's no elephant in the room called global heating. There's no elephant in the room called enhancing the greenhouse effect, basically forever. Just go walk around that elephant. We're going to walk around. We're going to talk to the camera. We're going to read our notes. We're going to publish papers, and we're going to go to conferences, and we're just walking around that elephant. Everybody's walking around the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is called global heating. Places getting hot, motherfuckers. Just you watch. Watch. Just you watch. You haven't seen anything. And every year it's going to be, you haven't seen anything. I'll be right back on here a year from now. I said, you remember last year? Oh, you haven't seen anything. And that's just how it goes. We're off the map now, people. We're off the map. We have no idea what resides beyond the edge of the map. Well, there be monsters, right? Beyond here, there be monsters. So that's NOAA. That's my frustration with NOAA and network, meteorology and corporate media and corporate controlled NOAA. And it's they're not doing us any favors here. You're not going to get your guidance that way. You're going to get your guidance right here on my YouTube channel. Now, I'm going to tell you what's going down. I may not know exactly when it's going down or how bad it's going to be, but you are up a creek right now. It's just going to be nothing but a shit show from here on out. what can I say? On to Mexico City and Bogota, Colombia. So these cities, because we don't give a fuck, right? Very seldom in the news, very seldom. You're more likely to hear about Bogota, Colombia in European news. So like DW, right, out of Germany, maybe WEON out of India, right? The international media companies are far more likely to talk about our hemisphere, right? Because Mexico City is part of the North America, and Colombia is part of South America, and they are more likely to talk about events in our backyard than we are. And why is that? It's the same story. It's just the same. It's just corporate control of media. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to know that 9 million people in Mexico City, because it's a city that's having this problem. Mexico City is running out of water. A city, not a community, not a reservoir, right? Not a canal, not a river, a city. This thing out here, right? The big thing, the big picture. A city, 9 million people running out of water. It's gotten so bad that people are protesting now in Mexico City over the water. Not the price of the water, not the color of the water, the smell of the water. Just, do they have any, right? Yeah, they say that the water smells bad, it's brown, and all these other kind of things. But they didn't protest over the fact that the water stank. Now they're protesting over the fact that their lives are becoming unlivable. Their lives are becoming unlivable as Mexico City, the city, this big thing, okay, becomes uninhabitable because you can't survive without water. You'll die sooner of dehydration than you die of starvation. We all know that, right? You knew that? Everybody should know that. You'll die in a matter of days if you can't drink the water. And then you'll die in 24 hours if you drink contaminated water. You see, this is a real dumpster fire. And if you get so thirsty that you're going to go ahead and drink the brown water that smells like sewer, well, then you die of cholera 48 hours later. You die of typhus 24 hours later. And I guess when people become angry and terrified enough that they're going to die in 24, 48 hours if they don't get water, then they'll start killing each other over water. The way people kill each other over money and furniture and gold bars and all this kind of stuff. They'll start killing each other over water because they realize that water is more valuable than gold because they don't have any. And what are you going to do in Mexico City when you run out of water? Well, good question. Probably it's a regional drought, right? It could be mismanagement. It could be that Mexico City, the water managers are corrupt and ignorant and fools or whatever, and they've just mismanaged the water and they're wasting it over here and they're dropping the ball over there, and suddenly there's no water and no one knows why. Or it could be it's a regional drought, or it could be that it's both. But at this late date, can you even fix it? What if it is just corruption and malfeasance and criminal behavior? Can you fix that? This is Mexico. They can't do anything, right? They're even more dysfunctional than the US Congress. What are they going to do? Nothing. There's nothing they can do. They would have done it, but they didn't because they can't. So that's their situation. They're not doing it. They're not doing jack about the water. And complicating things slightly, they are at, 8,000 feet of elevation. So they're not even bringing water in. They can't go up to find a river nearby to build a pipeline or just fill trucks, right? Because they're already on the top of a mountain. So they have to go down the mountain, find water somewhere. It could be 200-300 miles away, right? 1,000 miles away, maybe in a whole nother country. Maybe they have to come to the US and get our water. Are we going to like that? No, we got our own fucking problems with water. So they're going to have to go somewhere, and then they got to bring the water up the hill. Truckloads of water, tankers full of water. How is that supposed to work? Oh, and by the way, let's not that it really matters much, but it's ironic that they're going to have to burn fossil fuels to do this. Yeah, let's not forget that elephant in the room, right? Let's not walk around the elephant in the room, which is that probably the greenhouse effect, global heating, sets you up for this situation where now you're in the middle of a drought, you have no water, and now you're going to have to burn more fossil fuels. Oh, the irony, to go find water 500 miles away and truck it up the mountain, 8,000 feet. If you can. What, they're going to fly it in on airplanes? using fossil fuels. What are these people going to do? Well, in all likelihood, of course, they're not going to do anything, except if they have the option, and some will, they're going to leave. Where do they go? Well, if they already own a second home and they have a visa in, say, the United States somewhere, then they get on an airplane, that flies out of Mexico City, get on an airplane, fly to the Estados Unidos, and get off the plane and go to their second home. And maybe they got millions of dollars in the bank, and so they can just survive. And the water's good, and they're happy to be there. And they just abandon their old life in Mexico City. Some people could probably do that. What is like 1/100th of 1% of the population of Mexico City can do that? Get on an airplane and never look back. Like 100 people, 1,000 people out of the population of Mexico City has that option. 1,000 people, maybe. And maybe not even all the wealthy people in Mexico City, maybe just some people that just happen to have family living in the United States. And they have a visa and they go visit them all the time anyway. So they just get on the plane and they fly to the United States and have a big, long drink of water. You could even be wealthy living in Mexico City. But if you don't have an exit strategy, meaning someplace you can go, then you're kind of a little bit fucked, right? So not everybody's going to get out of Mexico City as the place runs out of water. And some people believe they'll get in their car and they'll drive down the mountain and they'll try to go to someplace else in the nation of Mexico and try and find food, clothing, and shelter, right? And water. And maybe that works. Maybe the people there won't turn them away. Maybe the people there won't shoot them on sight, right? Because when you realize that Mexico City is emptying, then the people in the surround are going to be saying, oh, well, they're not coming here. They're not coming here. They're not bringing their problems here. They're not bringing their drugs, their guns, their violence, their shitty politics. They're not coming here. We like our life. We like our little village, and we like our water. And we're not going to have 10,000 people show up tomorrow. We're barely a village of 2,000. We're not going to have 15,000 people show up tomorrow. All of them demanding food, housing, water, schools, police protection, more of this, more of that, something else, gasoline for their car. We don't want them here. Yeah, we know that Mexico City is going to empty by and large. Maybe 90% of the population has to leave, can leave. The rest of them are just going to figure it out, I guess, die in place. Who knows what they're going to do? But we don't want 90% of 8 million people showing up in our villages. Yeah, they'll barricade the main street and they'll stop people, with their rifles and say, you can't come in here. Oh, but we're refugees. Well, yeah, go be refugees someplace else. Go to the United States. See what they do with you at the border. Oh, but we need fuel. Well, we're not giving you any fuel. Well, we can't get to the United States on the fuel in our car. Well, then you're screwed. Drive out in the desert and die. Because you're not coming in here. And we're not giving you anything. And we're not sharing. And we barely have enough as it is. And you can't have what we have. Go away. That's how it's going to be, right? You just know that's how it's going to be. Is the nation of Mexico going to set up refugee centers all across the country and supply these people with food, clothing, and shelter and water? No. No. And if they start, setting up for that, then the drug lords turn up and try to rob everybody. And the ones they can't rob, they shoot. And so you just go from, dying in Mexico City due to you can't find water and you probably can't find food, to dying in a tent city surrounded by drug gangs who, take people captive and ransom them and all the other bullshit that they're doing. And then, you turn up at the U.S. border, and now there's 2 million people coming into the U.S. border, and we're looking at this and what the hell is this? Well, these are refugees from Mexico City looking for food, clothing, and shelter because Mexico City became uninhabitable. And, most of them know about the United States. Some of them even have family. Some of them might even work here once in a while. So, yeah, they know what to do. They know how to get there, and they know how to get around in the U.S. And so they're come to the U.S. Now they're at the border, and there's 2 million of them. Or 5 million or something like that, right? And they're all at the border and they're all confused and they all want in. They all want to be saved. They don't want to die. And their own country can't save them because reasons. And so they're coming to the US because that's their only hope. And they're not mean and they're not criminals and they're not trying to get away with something. They're just trying to save themselves and their children. That's it. That's it. They just don't want to die. Why not? Of course they don't want to die. So they're headed north. They don't dare head south because they got as big a problem as the Mexicans are having. And the same thing happens in Colombia. They're at, 7,000 feet and they've got 7 million people and they're up on a mountaintop and they're running out of water, living on their mountaintop. And how did that happen? Why did they build a city at 7,000 feet? There's no water up there. And if you run out of water, you have to, drive hundreds, if not thousands of miles to find water. And then you're, trucking it up a hillside, chugging along, burning diesel. Who thought that was a great idea? How did you end up having 7 million people living on a mountaintop with no water? How'd that happen? Well, it did. And while we're talking about Bogota and Mexico City up on top of a fucking mountain with no water, let's talk about Las Vegas, shall we? Who decided to make a gambling mecca, Las Vegas, in the middle of a desert? Whose idea was that? Oh, and while we're talking about that, let's talk about Los Angeles. What do they got going on? Well, they're stealing water from the Colorado River. Who thought that was a good idea? How sustainable is that? What if the Colorado River runs dry? What are those 20 million people going to do? 20 million people. What are they going to do? Are they going to go to Mexico? No. About the time they're running out of water, the Mexicans are trying to get in here to get the water in Los Angeles, and there isn't any. So the Mexican refugees show up at the border, and the people in Los Angeles are also becoming refugees because no water. All this is being driven by global heating. It's just the elephant in the room that no one ever wanted to talk about. Mexicans aren't talking about global heating, and the Colombians aren't talking about global heating, and the people in Las Vegas don't want to talk about global heating, and the people in Los Angeles don't want to talk about global heating, and the people in Texas, Houston, Texas, don't want to talk about global heating, and the meteorologists all over the country don't want to talk about global heating, and the people doing storm chasing, the severe weather and the hurricanes and the destruction, they don't want to talk about global heating. I'm not going to talk about it. Just going to walk around that elephant. Just walk around the elephant. Look at the tornadoes. Look at the cars up in the trees. And look at the flooding. And look at the horse standing on the roof. And look at the refugees coming to the border. And thousands and millions of people showing up, wanting food, clothing, and shelter because, hey, why, no one wants to die. And so we're just walking around that elephant. Walk around the elephant. Global heating? Never heard of it. Climate change? Yeah, it is to laugh. These droughts, it's just mismanagement and corruption. It's not lack of rainfall. Or it's El Nino, or it's La Nina, or it's both, or it's sunspots, or it's something else. You walk around the elephant. Big elephant in the room, standing there, stinking of carbon dioxide and greenhouse effect. Shitting all over the floor, walking around the elephant, walking through the elephant shit. Walking through it, stepping through it, tromping on the elephant shit. There's no elephant in this room. No, it's a hoax. The elephant is a hoax. There's no global heating. There's no greenhouse effect. There's no CO2 in the atmosphere. Burn fossil fuels. Yes, that's the right way. That's the American way. That's the growth way. That's democracy. That's capitalism. Burn those fossil fuels. God damn it. You're not burning fossil fuels. What's wrong with you? Are you unpatriotic? Are you a communist, a Marxist? Burn fossil fuels. What's wrong with you? Contribute to the economy. Grow the economy. Everybody has to buy. Buy more. KFC, Target, Walmart, buy. Drive to the big box shop. Drive and get your Cheetos by the case. Drive to Disneyland if you're feeling bad. Drive to Disneyland 3 times a year. Buy stuff. Travel. Enjoy life. Eat the KFC. Eat it until you're got diabetes, right? That's how we do it. And you think you're going to stop burning fossil fuels? The fuck you are. Yeah, you're not stop burning fossil fuels. You're not going to stop burning fossil fuels. You can't. People are about to die by the millions. Watch for it. They're going to die by the millions. We had 5 people die in the city of Greenfield. One of them, ironically enough, a storm chaser chasing that tornado, got killed by the tornado. How ironic. 5 people died in Greenfield. All of those people are destroyed. They're all destroyed. They have their huge tract of their community just got blown 100 miles away. And if you go in your front yard in Greenfield and your house has been destroyed and you find a 2x4 sitting in your front yard, that didn't come from your house. That came from the house on the edge of town. And your 2x4s and your roofing and your plywood and your baby clothes, they're 100 miles away in another town. Those people are done. They're just done. FEMA will show up and they'll set up a tent and they'll set up a watering station and they'll set up a cooling station because right after the tornadoes left, it got record heat because global heating. Let's say it all at once, okay? And now they're setting up tent cities with air conditioning and they'll be there for 2 weeks, 2 months, something like that, and then they'll leave because they got to go do the same song and dance someplace else. And after the 2 months of helping you and giving you therapy for your PTSD, helping you bury your relatives. And after they do that, they're going to leave. And the houses will be gone and the businesses will be gone. And the rest of the community is living in absolute terror. And, all their neighbors are destroyed. And the rest of the community is trying to chip in to help these people. And they put up a family in a spare room, or they put up a family in a travel trailer that's parked in the side yard or something like that. And it's just a catastrophe. And it never gets fixed. Oh, and then the insurance companies don't pay out, or there were no insurance companies, or none of these people owned insurance because it's a tiny, poverty-stricken town, and no rebuilding. And you come back, and I've actually done this. You come back on Google Maps, right? And you look up this town that was blown to rat shit 4 years before, and you look it up on Google Maps, and the images might be a couple of weeks, a couple of months old, but you look it up on Google Maps, and nothing has been rebuilt. I've done this. I've deliberately done this. I'll remember Greenfield, Iowa. And a few years from now, if I'm still doing this, I still have a computer, I still have electricity, and I still have internet, and I still have all these things, then I'll fire up Google Maps. I'll say Greenfield, Iowa, whatever happened there. And I'll go back there and I'll find it. You'll still be able to see the scar on the landscape where it tore up the trees and tore up the turf and made huge gouges in the ground. And you'll see the houses, and all they'll be is cement slabs. Just a long, wide trail of cement slabs. Maybe a couple of houses still there. Maybe those houses weren't even damaged by the tornado, or not damaged enough to abandon. So they'll replace a few windows, replace a door, re-roof the roof of the house, and then they can still live there but there's not going to be any rebuilding. I've gone back to these places years later. And the only houses that are really there are the ones that kind of survived or could be fixed. Just concrete slabs and foundations all the way through town. Try it sometime. These people are done. They don't have money. They don't have anybody to help them. FEMA's there for 2 weeks, 2 months, and they're gone. They got another disaster, the next county over. And pretty soon FEMA won't even show up. Why? I don't know. They ran out of money. Nobody wants to work for them anymore. The Republicans voted their budget out of existence. Donald Trump came through and said their climate change is a hoax. We don't need to fund FEMA. No, we're not going to do that. We're not funding any of this stuff. And by the way, Ron DeSantis says you can't even talk about it. He passed legislation in Florida. You can't even talk about it. So we don't need FEMA. We don't need to rebuild. What are you talking about? We're not rebuilding anything. You rebuild it. We're not coming in here and giving you money. No, this is America. Sink or swim, bitch. Darwin, you go pray to Darwin. Hope that you survive, right? We're doing some natural selection here. And so, yeah, you fix it yourself. All right. No one made you live there. You fix it. Climate change, global heating, that's not even real. Don't come to us with your hand out because global warming and hurricanes and tornadoes and shit like that and hail. No, that's not real. You fix it. Never happened. I don't know what your problem is. Never happened. That's how they're going to do this. They're just going to keep walking around that elephant in the room, walking around that elephant. But it's getting real in Mexico City. It's getting real in Bogota, Colombia. And those people are going to have to make a move. And that move might actually be a physical thing. They may have to physically leave. And they go down the mountain and they try to get into villages and they try to start over and they end up at the border with the US or Brazil or Venezuela. And, will they be let in? Will they be welcomed? Will they be, accommodated? No. No. Got our own problems, baby. Go back home. Yeah, you should have thought of all this. You should have had a different government. You should have dealt with the drug cartels. You can't live in your own country. It's not our problem. Go home or die. Not our problem either way. We got the guns, we got the bombs, we got the tanks, we got the barbed wire. And no, you're not coming in here. Go home. That's how it's going to be. It's all global heating. It's all the greenhouse effect. It's all caused by us burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, and natural gas, and all the ways that we consume them. And we live a great life here in the United States. And when we drive wherever we want to drive, we drive 10, 15 miles to the big box shop and come back with 8 trillion calories of junk food. And we drive to Disneyland, and we drive to therapy, and we drive our kids to the best schools. And we drive up to the mountains to enjoy the snow, and then we drive to the beach to enjoy the surfing, and we just drive everywhere. And take my fossil fuels away. Yeah, you pry them out of my cold dead hand right alongside my AR-15, right? We're not going to do it. Those people are about to die. People in Mexico City, and no one will know. The Mexico government will never confess to it. They won't. They'll just quietly let them go. There will never be any statistics on how many people are now, have recently, or will be dying in Mexico City. Nothing. You'll never hear anything about it. Nothing. Even even DW in Germany, they'll never report it because the numbers will never come out of Mexico. And maybe if you're a Red Cross volunteer, maybe you come back from some sort of work you did in Mexico City, helping the refugees, and you come back with terrible stories. And maybe you publish a book, and maybe you get on some podcast and you say what it was like. But that'll never be picked up. No one will ever know. It'll just happen. What happened in Mexico City? I don't know. But we've got 4 million criminal Mexicans at the border. And they're trying to get into our country, and they're trying to bring drugs and syphilis and ungodly behavior. And they're trying to get into our country. We're going to meet them with the U.S. Army. And why are they here? I don't know. Because they're criminal. They want into our country. They want to vote Democrat or something. And they're going to destroy our cities. And they're going to rape and pillage and sell drugs. And and I don't mean good drugs like Olympic or whatever it's called, and opioids. They're going to sell drugs that are bad for you, right? And bad drugs, not the good ones. And we can't have them here because it's not our fault anyway. And no, it's not because of global warming and they ran out of water, and that's not our fault. I mean, it is our fault, but that's not our fault. And they mismanaged, or it never happened. There was no global heating. What are you talking about? Did you know you can go to jail for talking about that now? Because President Trump, working with the Congress and the democratic process, with democracy, decided that it's not real. And so we can't have that conversation now. We're just going to walk around this elephant, walking through elephant shit and elephant piss. We're just going to walk around this elephant, and there's no elephant. It's all fake. There's no global heating. Yeah, that's the elephant in the room, but there's no global heating, so there's no elephant in the room. The forecast for tomorrow is major tornado outbreak. Be sure that you've prepared, whatever that means. And for the week after that, we've got 2 hurricanes coming ashore, one in Texas and one in Florida. And be prepared for that, whatever that means. How do you prepare for something like that? Prepare to die? I mean, fill out your will, forward your, will to your next of kin living in Michigan. I don't know how you're supposed to prepare. I guess if you're rich, you get out. You board up your house and you get out, unless you're worried about those thieving looters coming into my home. I'm going to stay right here. And of course, the storm comes, and you and your house end up, 2 miles away. And your house is destroyed, and you're dead, and all of your goods are scattered over the county. And anybody sees your special thing that you thought was so valuable, they just pick it up and say, this is just junk. They throw it away. And you died in your home because your things are so valuable, and Second Amendment and AR-15. And I got all this ammunition, and I'm going to stay in my home to keep those looters. And meanwhile, you and your home are now blown to rat shit. That's what you can do. That's how you prepare, right? You go buy more ammunition. That's how you prepare. And toilet paper. Don't forget that. Ammunition and toilet paper. That's how you prepare. What else can you do? If you're lucky, you can leave. Except looters, right? So you're not going to leave. You're just going to buy toilet paper and ammunition, and you're going to hunker down in your house and hope everything's okay. That's it. That's your whole response. That's as much as you can do, and that's as much as you will do. Buy toilet paper, ammunition, hunker down in your home, and I don't know, watch Fox News, right? where they'll show you all the exciting wind profiles and the spaghetti models and the noodles and here's the storm track and it's going to do this and it'll be this big and it's going to be so many people and you're glued to Fox News and meanwhile Fox News is walking around the elephant, right? They're never going to say, oh yeah, this is bad because of global heating. They don't have to because NOAA didn't. NOAA made their predictions about the hurricane season. And they just walked right around that elephant. Global heating, climate change, yeah, whatever. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. Who cares? But we got a blowout hurricane season coming for you. So get your popcorn and get your 70-inch TV and warm up that remote control because we're going to have nothing but horror shows for the next whatever. I'm not doing us any favors, but who cares, right? Can't save these people. Can't save the people in Mexico City. Can't save the people in Bogota, Colombia. They're just going to have to figure it out, right? And we're not going to stop burning fossil fuels, and neither are they. In fact, most of these people, in order to survive, they'll probably start burning more fossil fuels than they ever did. They're going to be driving all over the countryside trying to find food, clothing, and shelter and water. Can't win. Just lose. We just lose. Every time we lose something. And maybe some of it comes back and maybe somebody survives and maybe somebody rebuilds and maybe they got lucky and they didn't quite go down this time, but maybe they'll go down next time and maybe they'll be in the wrong place at the wrong time and they're done. Even if it doesn't kill them. If it blows your house to pieces and blows the business to pieces that used to work and blows your town to pieces and you don't have a second home in some other city nearby, then you're done, right? You're How can you ever recover from that? And you're 45 years old and your kids are teenagers and no one cares about you and you don't have family and your family doesn't care about you and they can't take you in. They don't have any rooms and they don't have any money and you're done. What do you do? I don't know. Well, I guess we're going to find out. We're about to find out. The people in Mexico City are about to find out. And the people in Bogota, Colombia are about to find out what they do. I don't have an answer for them. I don't have an answer. Wish I did. Good luck, I guess. It'd be nice if we could talk about that elephant in the room, but we don't and we won't. And I guess maybe at this point, does it really matter anymore? The damage is done. Does it really matter anymore? I don't know that it does. I don't know what to say.